What do you like to see people ingest at some point post-workout in order to facilitate muscle protein synthesis and recovery? And
so a ton of work came out of Don Layman's lab. It was actually Lane's mentor. So Lane's numbers that he recommended, about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. 1.2 grams per kilogram is the same as 1 gram per pound.
It was 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, all the way up to, I think it was 2.4, but maybe as high as 2.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
If you start getting below that number, now you do start running into questions of protein quality, protein type, and protein timing. And this is one of the reasons why I actually fully agree with Lane, is just get that number higher than you think, and then all those other variables don't matter. If that number is low, then you need to start paying attention to a bunch of other stuff. You've added now complexity to your program, things you got to pay attention to. Just stay high and it doesn't matter. And so you can just leave a lot of those things off the table. In fact, Stu's recent work in non-animal-based proteins, it really showed that to be fairly clear, that those are quite effective, assuming total protein intake is high enough. The amount of leucine and other amino acids in those actual proteins matter less if the total threshold is just super high. So just do that and you're fine. Now, the other caveat we have to say here is timing of macronutrients seems to be somewhat irrelevant for protein, but that is not the case for carbohydrates. Replenishment of muscle glycogen is very specific, and you want to make sure that that is around a lot if you're doing either maintaining training quality or you're sliding into endurance type of work. And so nutrient timing does matter with carbohydrates. It depends on what we're going after in terms of a training goal. And the way that we like to think about this is if you're doing a strength type of work where you're truly targeting that, then a 1-to-1 post-exercise protein to carbohydrate ratio is generally what we're going to go after. So this would be something like 35 grams of protein, 35 grams of carbohydrate. It doesn't have to be post. It can be pre, or my favorite is actually mid or post, but somewhere in that range, especially if you're training in the morning and you have not consumed anything prior to your workout.
And that's not necessarily eating in the middle of the workout, that's drinking calories.
Yeah. Okay. It's going to be
I've yet to see someone eating a sandwich in the gym, although I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah. So 1-to-1 is that like sort of standard number here. If you're going to do sort of more of a really hard conditioning workout, that number slides up to something like 3 or even 4-to-1, which would be carbohydrate to protein ratio. So if we want to stay at 35 grams of protein, we're going to go maybe as high as like 100 or 140 grams of carbohydrate, again, depending on what type of. If you're going to do a little bit of a combination, then you like a little bit of strength, a little bit of conditioning, and kind of a standard workout, which is probably something that a lot of people will do, then you maybe want to go to something like 2-to-1. So, 35 grams of protein, 60, 70 grams of carbohydrate. And those are kind of just like rough numbers that you can go by.
And for pure hypertrophy training, would you like to see people ingest some carbohydrate post-training?
For pure hypertrophy training, I want to see that as many of those nutrients around the training as this is not science. This is just my coaching experience.